There's a saying, and I'm sure most of you have heard it, that hard times create strong men create good times, good times create weak men create hard times. Kirby, I'm sure you've heard this too. What are your thoughts on this saying?
Well, let's just call it what it is. Hard men and women create weak kids. That's, I believe it's true. And I think weak parents create strong kids. And the reason why, as the saying say, because, hard men, they came from hard upbringings, hard men and women. Because I mean, I've seen it on both sides of the aisle. It's not gender specific, but they came up hard. They came up struggling. They had to scratch, claw, and bite their way to get any form of success. And then, they have children, and then they don't want their children to go through what they went through. And then so they have their children oblivion, or they're the safety net around their children. So their children is in this bubble of euphoria. And then with that euphoria, these kids grow up and then they think everything's supposed to be safe, secure, and it should, be a world where everybody, cares for everybody else. If that was true, if that was the real world, then great. But that's not the truth. That's not what the real world is about. So that's how that saying matriculates. And I see it in my life. I grew up very rough, and then I had to scratch, claw, and bite. And then my children, I try to be that safety net for them. Make sure that they, whatever, minor things that they do at their young age is that, it'll be all right. Me, me growing up, if I went to McDonald's once a year, that was a blessing. Now my kids go to McDonald's and they think I'm trying to feed them rat poison or something. So my kids steak, lobster, crab legs, Brazilian restaurants and stuff like that. So I've created an environment where they think everything is, sweet, everything is, easy peasy. But the reality is when they grow up and be an adult, the world is not going to be that easy. The world is going to be very strict, very hardcore, very non-forgiving. And with that, I mean, I've saw that, my whole time, especially in adulthood, and I've had my chances to, to get to reflect on life and see things. So I pivoted a little bit. But before I tell you what I did, what do you think about that statement or saying before I just go off into a tangent like I usually do?
Well, it's interesting because that saying I've heard mostly related to when people are talking about times of war and peace. And it's often brought up, especially from like that World War II generation. And then after World War II, there was like that baby booming era, and you had that time of peace. And then that peace led to, Vietnam and then more hardship. And I'm not sure if that saying is directly just only related to that. Probably not. But having first heard it come from that understanding, like that era of World War II, I look at the surviving generations right now, and truthfully, your generation is that last generation to have experienced war. So that's one way I look at it. I'm sure it's not just a war related topic, but that is one way I look at it because my generation honestly is very pampered and hasn't had any real conflict experience or hardship. We've only experienced pretty much good times, even 9/11 and all of those issues. I mean, people my age, we were 3 to 5 years old when that happened, not even old enough to really understand what was going on. So, um, that's how I view it from someone in my generation, but I'm not sure if you've made the connection between that as well.
I made a connection between the military because that's where the saying first came from, the military aspect. But it's a life answer. Just think about it. I mean, I'll just go through my scenario. My, grandfather, he came up, during hard times. He made his life, he made the lives of his children a little bit better than he was growing up. But they still grew up pseudo hard, my parents. But and then so my parents, my aunts and uncles and what have you, they grew up and they wanted their kids to have the best. And having the best and having better times than they had, I'm just gonna call it what it is. Our generation screwed your generation over. I mean, not putting ages on it, but I had a kid at a young age. I mean, he's close to Alex's age now. Uh, and then so we, we grew up harder than this generation, but it's way less hard than the generation before us with our aunts and uncles. And then now we just think, oh, have kids, everything's euphoric, everybody, can do what they want to do. You can say whatever you want to say. You don't have to respect your elders. Most people don't even go to church these days. They just going out and doing whatever. So I looked at it more when I first heard that statement, I looked at it more of, generational cycles of what people go through. And like I said, I'm a victim of it also. I grew up hard in Detroit, but it wasn't hard as my mom did. It wasn't hard as, my grandfathers did. But, me, I chose to say I'm on a different path. I want, a great life for my family. But then I spoiled the hell out of my kids. You know, my kids don't know what a hard time is. A hard time for them is not going out to eat one day, or not being able to play a video game. My kids don't know anything about what it's like having the lights cut off, having the water cut off. They don't know nothing about having roaches running through the house. They don't know nothing about that. And then now when they see it, they just think, oh, we should give. Like I was telling you when we went on a cruise, and I mean, I have no problem with helping nobody out or friends or whatever, but we go on a cruise and then my son seen a kid that played a video game that he played, and then magically, oh, this is my friend. Oh, and then you know how on a cruise your room card is connected to your, credit card. I didn't have no limit on my son's room card because I didn't think he'd go anywhere without us. So my kid proceeds to go to the arcade with his friend, and he paid for the whole thing. He was like, "Oh, Daddy got it. Go ahead, swipe it up." You see it? That's what I mean. They create, but it's just that simple. It's just that easy for him because their life has been so easy. Everything that he ever wanted to get, Daddy always provided. So, oh, my dad can look out for this kid and look out for that kid. So, but what I've tried to instill is try to instill heart situations. And of course, people always say I'm crazy, Alex. You heard the stories when people be like, Kirby, you did that with your kid? Your kid's gonna have mental illness or something. But no, I have to simulate hard times for my kids so they understand how to persevere. Like today, we went to the gun range, and everybody thinking, oh, that's cool, gun range. Shoot a couple rounds, that's fine. No, I'm I made them stress through the whole thing. I made stressful situations during the gun range. I didn't just let them say, "Oh, go ahead, pop off a couple rounds and you're good." No, sit here in a prone, well, modified prone position and stay up on your elbows. Yeah, it hurts. It sucks. Yeah, I make sure he went through every mechanical step when it's coming to firing, taking a pistol out of holster, aiming it, firing it. I didn't let him just go out there and just shoot off some rounds. I didn't say just go ahead and shoot 50 rounds and then let's go. Everything was methodical on purpose to stress him out, to build up the heart rate level, to build up the stress level, and make sure they can still think when stress is going on. That's what I do, and I do that in every situation. Like I talked about it in the Discord. My son, he's in MMA. He's not in MMA because I think he's going to the UFC. He's in MMA because I want him to know what hard times is. Win, lose, that part really don't matter to me. I just want him to be able to give me 110% for a certain amount of time. If he wins, great. If you lose, great. But did you give me the effort? I want to know so he know what adversity is. People that he go against are way better than him. So, all right, you lose, but you signing up for the next fight so you can take the next fight. Okay, it sucks, you lost, but oh, how you recover and what you do after the loss is what's important. So I always try to put my kids in those situations, and I always say, and I always tell my kids, and people think I'm crazy when I say it because they think I'm not the asshole that I mean, sometimes I portray myself to be, but I always tell my kids, if you can survive me, the world will be a piece of cake. So all you parents out there, just think of that. If you can survive me, the world will be a piece of cake. That's what I tell my kids. Because I'm going to still have the guardrails, the safeguards out there so they won't go do nothing crazy. But I'm going to make it stressful on their life. They'll be okay. So when they get out into the world, when daddy's not around to sit there and hold their hand, they will be able to persevere in those situations. Rather than be prepared and never have to go through it, than not be prepared and then they fall apart like a cheap suit when they hit the rain. And that's how I look at it.
I can't speak from experience like having a child like on your part, but having known other kids that have come from wealthy families, and not all of them, but some of them, their parents do put them through hard situations, like you're saying. Obviously, they grew up in a very easier life than most kids, but certain situations where I know one friend who um, wanted to start his own business. His father's at a very uh, he's at a very high position in Chevron, very wealthy family, and his father made him basically do it from scratch, no help, nothing, out of the house. Like he had to figure out how to come up with his own money. Didn't get any handouts, not even a car, nothing. He had to figure out his himself. And fast forward 10, 8, 10 years later, he's around my age, and um, he what he does is sells military surplus, and he has contracts shipping inventory to the Ukrainian army right now. I mean, very successful. I mean, just completely dedicated. No help from his dad, maybe some words of advice, but no actual handouts or anything like that. And that's just one example, but there are definitely traits that I have seen successful parents try to leave to their kids to push them to those points of becoming successful rather than just trying to, oh, well, since I have everything, I just want to give you the world. Because we both have seen that as well, where there are successful and wealthy parents that have just pampered their kids' lives and then they're just complete screw ups. And then once the parents pass away, that's kind of the end of the family dynasty. It just falls from there because the kids don't know how to take over.
Right. And you remember the last Discord, I mean, people probably thought I was Satan's cousin or something when I said I won't give my kids nothing if they don't show the propensity or the aptitude to know how to handle the finances. And I got that from when I was, I don't know, I was about 12 or 13 years old. And a family friend of mine, he was heavily on drugs. And then his father received a lawsuit from the city of Detroit. I think it's $5 or $6 million. And the father just, father passed, so they just handed the kid the money. The kid didn't have the money. I'm saying kid, but he was a grown man. He didn't have the money for longer than a month, and then he OD'd in a motel bathroom. So it's just all gone. So why would I sit here and go through the grind I did, pick myself up by the bootstraps the way I did, just to hand it off to kids that didn't understand what to do with it? And that's the thing that I try to, influence the parents. I'm not trying to say, oh yeah, just go give it to charity. What I'm saying is, or don't take care of your kids or your grandkids or anything like that. What I'm trying to say is it's more than just, hey, I left a life insurance policy for my kids. They're going to be good. If they don't know what to do with it, they're going to be bad. I mean, I've seen it millions of times where parents leave life insurance policies to siblings, leave life insurance policies to kids, and their life insurance policy don't even last 3 months because the kid didn't know what to do with the money. And then you think you did everything you had to do because, oh, I left a life insurance policy, 50, 60, $70,000. I left a life insurance policy. But if they don't know what to do with the money, then you're screwed. If you left them $1 million policy and then you leave your kids to a family member that don't know what to do with the money, they're screwed. So with me saying that I'm not going to just hand my kids anything. If my kids show the propensity and aptitude to do what they have to do, like me, Alex, I'm heavy in real estate. If my kids don't say, "Hey, I'm gonna save up their own money to go get into the real estate realm," why would I give them all the properties that I have so when I die they could just mess them off, lose the money, get them taken by the state or by tax collections or default on a loan or something like that? Why would I do that? But people say I'm cold hearted, but I'm thinking past just that little sentimental thing of, oh yeah, I just gave it all to my kids. I want my kids to be able to do whatever they want, but I don't want them to have the ability to do nothing. So they have to put in the work to make it happen.
Well, guys, if you have any questions or comments, let us know down below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, share, and we'll see you guys on the next one.